Hi guys, Réal Laplaine here, author. Want to talk to you about my new book. It's called Voice. The silence is over. Um, this is a different kind of a book than any that I've written in the past because while it is a high concept thriller, it's also a speculative fiction, meaning that it could happen. It's not science fiction. The scenario is very simple. In a few years from now, it's set in that time frame. The first Mars colonies or bases have been set up by several nations. Um, Europe in conjunction with the United States, Russia, the Chinese, even the North Koreans, and the private sectors have started to set up bases. And at one particular base, the Euro, the one that's a collaboration between the United States and Europe, uh, two astronauts that are manning that base discover something buried deep beneath the surface, and well, it turns out to be an alien object of some kind. So, okay, that's not what the story. That is a focal point in the story, but the point that it is the catalyst for what happens afterwards, because uh, as the world starts to come to grips with the fact that there is obviously an alien object there and it can't be hidden, the news about it cannot be suppressed as has been done in the past with other visitations and UFO sightings, which particularly the American military have been very adept at trying to cover up for years, for reasons that well, you can figure that out. Anyhow, the discovery of this object is a catalyst that starts a whole chain reaction of activities, and because the world has to come to grips with it, superpowers have to decide what are we going to do with this, and who's going to have possession of the technology in there. And of course, there becomes the political and ideological rivalry between East West, who will capitalize on it, and of course there's lots of thrills that ensue as the usual well, bullshit ensues as nations go against nations trying to leverage this thing. But the really key part of this book is the message, because what happens when the object is discovered, and I'm not going to spill the beans on the book, essentially there's a contact. That's why it's called Voice. And the astronauts who discovered it on Mars become the contact point with someone at the other end who is alerted to the fact that their property on Mars has been discovered by humanity. And this starts a whole chain reaction at the other end as well. And the interaction between these two parties over a very great distance also becomes the focal point of major global interest, because it debunks the whole theory that we're alone in the universe and that there are no other people or intelligent species out there. All of that just is cast aside, and the real question becomes, who are they, and of course, what do they want, and what next after this whole interaction occurs. And the speculative fiction aspect of it is that the discussion that ensues is not what you think would happen. Essentially, the entities or species or intelligent life at the other end of the line are more interested in what's happening on Earth than, and for reasons that only become apparent in the book. And so that's why it's a high concept thriller. That's why it's speculative fiction. And it's very close to reality. It is essentially what would happen if we did discover actual proof that wasn't covered up or hidden or, whatever. And the world had to come to grips with the fact that we're not alone. and how's that going to change the paradigm, and all the stories and all the biblical this and that and the theories about creation suddenly are brought to question. So it could be considered very controversial. It's certainly going to shake the boat, and well, I hope it does. So it's a wake-up call. I consider the book a wake-up call. I wrote it from that perspective because I wanted people to read it and go, wow, yeah, this is probably closer to the truth than all the stories we've been fed for the last several decades about ET and extraterrestrials and what's out there beyond, our very, very, very small solar system. So I recommend the book, obviously, but if you're a free thinker, if you're an open-minded person, if you're somebody who wants to know what's outside the box, and you're not, a true believer of mediocrity, read the book, Voice. Thanks for listening.